Hi there, I'm Everett Dibler, one of your classmates, and with me today is one of my co-workers, Joe Krycia, who works at the Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living with me. However, while we are co-workers and do work together and talk about work-related activities, we haven't really talked about our employment histories together more so. So Joe, do you want to tell my classmates and my instructor the nature of your disability and maybe how long you've had disability?
Sure, yeah. I have been using a wheelchair full time for almost 18 years now due to a car accident. I have paraplegia, so I technically suffer impairment on all four limbs, but I can function at about my chest. I got my arms back as a result of some intense therapy and luckily can use them pretty well. Very strong in my upper body. So I've been doing that for, like I said, about 18 years and going strong.
Now, I know you work now here at LVCIL, but can you tell me what kind of jobs you've held while you were in the chair?
Yeah, when I was first injured, the first job I had was like a record store clerk or a CD store at the time. They didn't have records anymore. I started there as just a sales associate and moved up to assistant manager over time.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else that you did?
Yeah, after that, that store dissolved because of the electronic age and MP3s. So I moved on to insurance sales, and I was licensed to sell insurance in all 50 states, mostly health insurance and supplements to Medicare. So I learned the Medicare program and regular insurance.
So AARP stuff?
AARP was the parent company, and I was licensed through the Hartford Insurance Company and sold United Healthcare backed insurance.
Wow. That's all. I don't know what to say about that. Other than I guess that brings me to my first question. I didn't know any of that. Were there any challenges you faced in your quest for employment, whether at the record store or in a bigger corporation like Hartford?
I've had two unique situations with both places, and it's funny because the people who opened the record store, they knew me as a customer, and when I was injured, they actually changed their store so that I could use it. They put a ramp in behind the counter with the idea that someday I would be ready for employment and would work there. So while I had not really thought about that at the time that I was injured.
So was this a personal connection you had with?
Yeah, well, I was a customer, a regular customer.
Okay. So it wasn't like you were just walking in the store.
No.
Okay.
No. They knew me fairly well from visiting the store often, and so they were close that way when I was injured. I guess it was foremost in their mind to make sure that the store was accessible as it could be.
Right.
So I really didn't face many challenges with that, but going into a larger corporation with much more red tape and kind of fighting for your rights, I did have a little bit more trouble with the Hartford, I guess.
Yeah, was the interview okay?
And the interview was fine. Yeah, the interview was they were really receptive to everything I was saying. They didn't seem to think there would be any barriers, but it was, and they did ask me if I needed anything special, but there wasn't.
Special.
Yeah, special. If I needed anything special to help me with my job, they did not take into account, though, for instance, the time it takes me to get to and from the bathroom, let alone use the bathroom. There wasn't time really allotted for that. So, as a result of that, I did apply for family medical leave and started to learn a little bit about the ADA that way.
So you didn't know much about that?
Yeah, I didn't know that they had requirements at the time.
Did VR help you at all with your?
Yes.
Oh, so you knew about OVR, but not the right portion.
I knew about OVR, and
Okay.
here was the rub with OVR was that OVR had helped me prior to when I was first injured. I was 19, so we're going back to 1996 right now. OVR initially helped me. I know, I'm so old. OVR initially helped me get things for my home, like bathing, things that I would need to start maybe going to school because, like I said, I was 19. Then I dropped out of touch with them for a while, and their rules seemed to prohibit them from helping me unless I was going after a realistic work goal, is what they called it. At the time, I just wanted to go to school. And OVR, what the counselor at least I had, wasn't really very receptive.
So
to helping me.
your plan for employment didn't really, you just knew you wanted to go to school for something.
Yeah, I knew that
You weren't really sure what you wanted to do.
Well, yeah, I knew that I needed school to get a job, and I wasn't understanding how having education wasn't a realistic work goal. So I fell out of touch with them for a while, but once I became employed with the Hartford, then they helped me purchase the van that I got to and from work with. So I got the van, and they did all of the renovations for me. They paid for those renovations as long as I maintained insurance on the portions of the van that they paid for.
Sure.
But that was all they helped me with. They didn't help me with getting the job or nothing like that. They only helped me once I had the job.
Interesting. And I'm assuming like maybe the record store was not aware of ADA requirements or accommodations, so to speak, as much as the Hartford was like, what can we do to help? What special things do you need?
Yeah, I think that the Hartford did it out of not wanting to look bad, and I think the record store did it out of genuinely caring who comes.
Yeah, because actually in class I just read this article today that employment outcomes for people with disabilities happen better when there's a network of people that they know or the VR counselor knows or a professional knows.
Yeah.
So like, would you say the record store was a better employment experience than Hartford?
I would say it was a better employment experience because people had to interact with me, face to face. The insurance industry is more of an on the phone kind of thing.
Is it based on commission almost? Like if you gotta get your sales numbers up?
Yes, the first part of the job was just servicing people who already had plans, and then there was a part called acquisition where I would kind of hunt down leads that they sent in, and once I got it so far, I would transfer it to a salesperson. I didn't understand doing all that work and not getting the commission, so then I went for the sales. And yeah, it was based solely on numbers. You were paid a base salary, but you were also paid commission, and if you didn't maintain a certain amount of commission, then you were reprimanded.
Did you maintain your well, first let me ask this: were you aware of Social Security and work incentives?
Yes.
And stuff. Then did you maintain those, or did you decide to like leave and then reapply?
I decided to leave when I was making the amount of money I was making at the Hartford.
Right.
I decided
You almost had to leave.
Yeah, I was forced out. Social Security told me I was making too much money, and therefore it was considered gainful employment, and I no longer needed assistance. So I lost that benefit. And
then you had to get back on when
Yeah.
I don't know, I would call it a re-injury or got sick?
It was, it was a couple different things. And I don't mind saying that I felt the insurance industry was a little dishonest, and it kind of made me rethink things, but at that time I started to get ill also. So when I wasn't able to maintain those numbers any longer, and like I said, I qualified for family medical leave, and there was no threat to my job that way. However, family medical leave did not account for the numbers that I was producing.
So lack of production.
So lack of production because of being out. Yes, I couldn't lose my job because I couldn't make it into work due to my disability, but I couldn't also maintain the quota. So I noticed that it was kind of a lose-lose situation. And
the writing was on the wall.
And the writing was on the wall. So I left there and did get sick at that time, and I reapplied for Social Security, and that was supposed to be on the fast track, but it took about 9 months to get back. So
I heard the advocate come out of you on that one.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They told me, "Oh, you're in the system. You're on the fast track."
Well, so I kind of get the sense that maybe this is what brought you to a place like this at a Center for Independent Living as an advocate.
Yes. What brought me here was I went to an interview and I was blatantly discriminated against, and I called the sales.
Where were you?
I'm not allowed to tell you.
Oh. Okay.
Because it was mitigated through. I called the SIL and I this is when I became aware of what Centers for Independent Living, what they do.
What they do.
And I talked to the current advocate here, Robbie Graves, at the time, and he taught me how to advocate for myself, and I did that, and I won. So it's not like not for money or anything like that, but other than to educate this place that you cannot treat people this way. And
so you can't tell me what the place was, but can you tell me anything that happened?
I can.
I feel like Barbara Walters right now.
Let me tell you that the place functioned. Their function was for the betterment of people with disabilities. And I went into the interview, and although I had experience with customers, I was licensed to sell insurance in all 50 states. I could run a cash register. I could do anything. Their storefront, I guess you would say, or the place of business wasn't very accessible to get into, and I think they knew they'd have to change that if I were to become a regular employee there. Plus, there was a part of the structure that I couldn't reach unless I had gone out the front door, down around the block, and then into the back door. So the manager at the time who was interviewing me was telling me things like, when I told him, well, I had experience with this, he would say, well, that was a mom and pop store, so that really doesn't apply here. At one point he did come out and say that it would be difficult for me to get to help all people that needed help
So
in the
all
establishment.
customers.
Yeah. And he was he cut everything down that I said, and I knew that I had worked in places much more, like the Hartford. I knew that I had worked and survived in a place that was of a larger
And a corporate ill, like
Yeah.
it was what they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got here.
Oh wow! I didn't. Wow. So I guess it kind of leads me to, okay, so you've had a really good experience, sort of it was okay, but
Yeah.
then you kind of saw the writing on the wall for your employment, and VR didn't really help you other than a van and some training here and there type thing. That interesting stuff. My experience is a lot different than that. I mean, VR was my saving grace, and to some degree still are.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, like, what kind of things do you do now working here that help you be successful? Like, I noticed that you're a part-time employee here, and like, why do you choose to do that, and what other accommodations do you have here?
Okay. I've chosen the part-time status because of the difficulty it was to get back into the Social Security system. I still require more monetarily than maybe the average person goes through.
From a medical sense.
From a medical sense, there are things that I need to maintain that cost me money that if I were to forego the Social Security system, I wouldn't be able to make it. It just wouldn't be enough.
Sure.
So I stay at a level where it's healthy for me. I'm not working 5 days a week, kind of beating myself up. My body has adapted well to that,
Yes.
and I'm able to maintain like a level of comfort with money where I can live comfortably without having to sacrifice too much. And as far as I'm very lucky to be in a place like a Center for Independent Living, because as far as accommodations go, anything I feel that I would need or ask for, I would get, and I haven't really asked for anything here.
Other than the scheduling stuff.
Other than the
guess.
schedule, that is huge. It is a huge thing to go to your employer and say, look, I need you to work me as much as I can up to this point, and at that I need to stop and have them go, okay, that's fine, we'll figure that out. I mean, that is a huge...
Right, and I'm not sure many employers would do that, especially if you can fill a need.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it really comes down to, like, what kind of need are you filling here? So, we didn't really talk about this, but what do you do here?
Well,
What's your...
Here I've got a couple functions, and
Yeah,
that's...
you wear a couple hats. That's the nonprofit world, I guess.
That's and that's sort of where I was able to fit the Social Security cap need into, was that I just made myself available to whatever they needed at the time. So most recently I was trained in the sign language interpreter referral service area, where we help get interpreters for deaf consumers who are
Sure.
going to the doctor or whatever. So I will take an on-call phone for 15 hours out of the month, which works out to be 15 days, and answer that. If anything comes up overnight after hours that someone needs a sign language interpreter, I'll do my best to get that for them. Just more recently, I've moved into the career path process where we're helping young adults.
It's an employment program.
It's an employment program. It helps young adults with all sorts of manner of disabilities, learn how to, their skills.
Job readiness skills.
Yeah, job readiness, anything that they might need to help them, get and maintain a job, which I think is really cool because, like discussed, that's not something that I really had when
So
when
it's
I was
nice
first
to give back
entering.
because it is a program that's like referrals come directly from VR
Yes.
and the county system.
Yeah.
Which is something that you and I both, as people with disabilities, have not experienced.
Right, right.
If you will. So
Yeah.
it is nice to see
Yeah.
young adults in this building all the time,
All the time.
learning about employment outcomes and different things.
Yeah.
And it's person focused.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I guess that's a good segue because maybe I'm getting good at this. But do you have any advice for transition age youth who are seeking employment? Like, so someone, who is in high school going to make a decision to go to college, work, or just live independently.
Yeah.
Any advice you have for them as they seek employment?
It kind of wraps everything we've talked about up into one. Like, know as much as you can. Talk to your parents, talk to your counselors, talk to anybody to see and build that network that we were talking about earlier, where if you know somebody somewhere that can, even if it's just put in a good word or point you in the right direction to learn about what's available to you as far as help, whether it's Social Security, whether it's VR, whether it's just maybe somebody knows of a place who is very sensitive and loves to hire people that have a manner of disability in some way. Just try to know everything you can and make sure you surround yourself with people who will help you do that, will help you,
Right.
reach out to agencies.
So a lot of it goes back to like networking and putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And if you're a parent, finding ways to connect your
Yeah.
child and
Yeah.
then teach them what's happening. to them.
Absolutely.